What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new deck tech using Fire Lord Azula. Azula is a 4/4 human noble for 1 blue-black red that has fire bending 2, and whenever you cast a spell while Azula is attacking, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. Fire bending, in my opinion, is a super cool mechanic. I mean, just think of all the cool things you can do with temporary mana in the combat phase. Pairing that with Azula's spell copying effect, also occurring during combat, and you have a super unique and cool combination. For this deck tech, we'll be going with a common theme that Azula decks are likely to be built around in Spellslinger, but ours will have a special twist. We'll be focusing on spells that boost Azula's power, or give her some sort of evasion. That's right, we're making a Voltron Spellslinger deck, combining the power of killing with commander damage with casting as many spells as we can in a turn. With that, let's get into the card highlights. Having access to red gives us quite a few options for instant speed power increases for Azula. Starting out with some of the better ones, Fists of the Anvil, Antagonize, and Invigorated Rampage can all give Azula a massive 4 power increase, with the Rampage even giving her Trample as well. Cast these in combat and it'll be doubled, giving her a nice plus 8 power, all for a cheap 2 mana. Gimli's Fury, Brute Strength, and Siege Smash all give a plus 3 power increase alongside Trample, making them nice and effective ways to give Azula both a power boost and a form of evasion to make sure we can hit our opponents. Siege Smash can even be used to destroy an artifact, 2 of them if cast during combat with Azula, making it a nice modular spell that can work in a few different scenarios. Brute Force and Titan Strength are extremely efficient power boosts for Azula, giving a plus 3 increase, all for a single mana. Titan Strength even lets you scry, letting you more easily set up your next draw, especially considering you'll get to do it twice if cast during combat. Sugar Rush costs an extra mana for the same power boost, but has the added benefit of drawing you a card on resolution as well. This card will be monumentally useful for us, since being able to draw 2 cards for 2 mana, while also making our Voltron commander larger, is such extreme value that it'll be hard to top. And hey, you might even draw some more power boost cards, letting you get even more damage in with Azula if you can cast them. For some real power increases, we have a few instants that'll double a creature's power outright, effectively quadrupling it for us thanks to Azula's ability. Bulk Up and Unleash Fury are 2 such examples that do this, being the largest power increase we'll have access to for a small cost of 2 mana in all. I mean, Azula's firebending ability alone will cover the cost of these spells, making them absolutely no-brainer includes. Rush of Blood effectively does the same exact thing, just worded slightly differently and for an extra mana. Still, even with the extra mana, it's well worth it for what we're trying to do with this deck. Now that we've significantly increased Azula's power, let's look at ways to give her some evasion to make sure we can hit our opponents with her. While doubling the evasion keywords with Azula's ability is redundant, we can still get value out of it by using spells that also draw us a card when they resolve. For this we have Leap, which gives a creature flying, Aphotic Wisps, which gives a creature fear, and Shadow Rift, which gives a creature shadow, all while also drawing a card on resolution. Just like with Sugar Rush, you'll get double the cards with Azula, making these great options really for their card draw alone. Piracy Charm is similar to the previous 3, giving a creature Island Walk, but has the downside of not drawing a card as well. Still, the fact that it has modular abilities, including one that can act as a power boost, makes it well worth it for its situational nature alone. Enter the Enigma and Artful Dodge both give a creature unblockable, but unfortunately a sorcery speed, meaning we won't really be able to double them with Azula. Still, making sure we can absolutely hit with Azula before unloading a bunch of power boost spells on her is nothing to scoff at, and is great for setting up game-ending turns. For non-spell ways of making sure Azula can hit the opponent, we have Aqueous Form and Brotherhood Regalia, an aura and equipment that makes it so the attached creature can't be blocked. The Scry 1 from the Aqueous Form is a nice added bonus, and we get a real benefit from the Ward 2 given by the Regalia, making these both solid unblockable choices for us, even if they aren't instants or sorceries. Now for the Spellslinger components of the deck, we have your typical casting instants or sorceries payoffs that deal damage to opponents whenever it happens. Gutter Snipe and Fiery Inscription both deal 2 damage to each opponent when this occurs, while Electrostatic Field only does 1 damage. Given how many instants and sorceries we have in the deck, these cards will go a long way in making sure our opponents have low enough life that we may not even need to kill with commander damage if they get out and stay out. Rona Sheoldred's Faithful is similar to the other cards, but makes opponents lose life rather than dealing damage. While this distinction may matter in a lot of decks, it really doesn't in this one, making it a great include for us to whittle away our opponent's life totals more. Sorcerer class is a more modular enchantment that can be a great storm payoff with its last ability, compounding damage for however many spells you've cast this turn. Even if we only get 3 spells off, that's still a whopping 6 damage to each opponent, making for an efficient payoff. Not to mention, its level 2 ability will be great for the next set of cards we have. The other great payoff we have for a Spellslinger deck is tokens. There are numerous cards out there that will generate some sort of creature token whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, something that'll be especially great since we're more of a Voltron deck focusing on a single creature. Young Pyromancer is probably the most well known in this category, making a 1/1 elemental whenever a spell is cast. Sedgemoor Witch does something similar but takes it a step further. Not only is it Magecraft, meaning that the spell copy from Azula's ability will trigger it again, but the tokens even have an ability that gains you a life when it dies, making you a bit more resilient to damage in the game. Judith Carnage Connoisseur creates similar tokens, but in reverse. Not only are they 2/2 creatures, but they also ping your opponents for 2 damage whenever they die, making for amazing blocking fodder to continue grinding down your opponent's health. Talrand Sky Summoner also makes 2/2 tokens, but ones with flying, making them great evasive creatures to get more damage in on opponents. Rite of the Dragoncaller instead makes 5/5 flying creatures, potentially getting you a massive army that can end the game quickly, even though it does have a rather hefty cost of 6 mana. Lord of the Nazgul is another one of those cards that can end the game quickly if left unchecked, creating an army of 3/3 Wraiths with Menace that become 9/9s instead if you get enough of them out. While 9 spells is quite steep to achieve this, it'll only take us a few turns to do so, making Lord of the Nazgul one of those cards that needs to be dealt with quickly before it spirals out of control. Since we can double up on cards if they're cast during combat, why not use this to get a ton of card advantage? We have a number of card draw spells that we can cast at instant speed, making them great combat cast solutions for us. Blood Pact can net you 2 cards for 3 mana, while Opta lets you scry 1 and draw 1 for a single mana, making these very mana efficient when doubled. My favorite red card draw spell in Big Score also works for this, not only drawing you 4 cards when doubled, but also netting you 4 treasures as well, effectively replacing itself mana-wise. Seriously, 4 mana and 1 discard to draw 4 cards and get 4 treasures is such an amazing rate that you just can't pass up on it. Just like with the Sedgemoor Witch, Archmage Emeritus has Magecraft, giving us double the effect whenever we spellcast during combat with Azula. In this case, he'll net us 2 cards whenever we cast an instant, making for a very effective source of card draw with our strategy. Frantic Search is less card draw and more card replacement, but where it really shines is the fact that it untaps 3 lands when it resolves. With doubling the effect, this will be 6 lands total, netting you an extra 3 mana to cast other spells. Blood for the Blood God is more of a hilarious include in this deck. While we really probably won't be able to capitalize on its cost reduction, the fact that you can cast this during combat to deal a whopping 16 damage to each opponent and draw, effectively, 16 cards is just too funny to pass up. Finally, we have a number of good utility cards that work well with the themes of our deck. Sticking with the Spellslinger theme, we have Thousand Year Storm, a tremendous way to capitalize on being able to cast multiple power boost spells in a single turn. Combining this with even just 2 or 3 power boosts is usually going to be good enough to get Azula directly into commander damage range. Balmora Battlemage Captain is another way to provide Azula with both a small power increase and evasion and trample, while Cryptic Pursuit can net you some extra creatures out of the battlefield that'll even turn into spells when they die, if they happen to be instants or sorceries. Veyran Voice of Duality turns any spells cast during combat with Azula out into 3 copies of it, instead of the normal 2, thanks to her doubling trigger effect. Not only that, but Veyran herself can get very large very quickly, since Azula copies a cast spell and Veyran doubles it, giving Veyran a whopping +4/+4 whenever a single spell is cast. Electro Assaulting Battery is great in that it can make our spells replace themselves mana-wise, or at least mostly, since most of our combat tricks are 1 or 2 mana in cost. Barring that, he's also an effective way to not lose out on the firebending mana from Azula, in cases where we may need to use that mana in the second main phase instead. Stormkiln Artist is a great mana generation option, since again, thanks to Magecraft, casting a spell that uses Azula's trigger will result in 2 treasure tokens being generated, instead of the normal 1. Here's an example deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include more power increase cards in Infuriate and Turn Inside Out, some counterspell backup in An Offer You Can't Refuse and Swansong, and some nice utility lands in Fire Nation Palace and Lindblum Industrial Regency. At this point, Grixis colored Spellslinger commanders seem like they're a dime a dozen, but Fire Lord Azula at least does it in a more interesting and creative way. I do honestly believe that the Voltron mixed with the Spellslinger theme that this deck utilizes is going to be one of the more unique and fun ways to build Azula, while still being powerful in its own right. Going straight Spellslinger may end up being the more powerful option, but again, been there done that with Grixis to the point where it's just not as fun anymore, at least not in my opinion. Adding in some creativity to how you're slinging spells will always be the go-to for me, so even if it's not as strong, it's the play I'll go with every time. Though that being said, I will say that the Spellslinger side of things is a nice mitigation to the usual downside of Voltron. With Voltron, you're usually left pretty wide open for attack, since you're focusing solely on one creature and one creature alone. Since at least half the typical Spellslinger payoffs include generating tokens, however, this could be a nice offset to this downside, making it a far more resilient Voltron deck than usual. If you're looking for a more creative twist on a Spellslinger or Voltron theme, or just love the character of Azula, then this may be just the deck for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this deck tech on Fire Lord Azula. The full deck list outlined in this video can be found at the Archedeck link at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a like and comment, as well as subscribe to the channel for more Magic content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.